All right. Okay. Um. Eh, it's a little laggy, but it'll be fine. I won't try to move a whole lot. But yeah. So I had went live a few days ago and have read through like all the subclasses except for the last two, which is sorcerer and wizard. So we're going to go through those two things today. And then if we have time, maybe we'll check out the new species in the 2024 Player's Handbook and talk about any of those things. So without further ado, let's jump into the sorcery subclass that it's in Unearthed Arcana for the Forgotten Realms book that's coming out in November, called Spellfire Sorcery, which I think this is a new one, brand new one. If you look at this whole document, I think there's 4 subclasses that have already existed but just got updated and put in more within the alignment of the Forgotten Realms setting, essentially. And then there's 4 new ones, I believe. So I think it's 4 updated and 4 new ones, and Spellfire Sorcery is one of the new ones, I believe. So radiate raw magic potential. Excuse me. Your innate power stems from the source of magic itself, the weave. This connection manifests as a rare ability known as Spellfire, and you surge with radiant bursts of this raw magic. Your talent with Spellfire allows you to heal allies, sear enemies, and absorb powerful spells. Wielders of Spellfire tend to be adventurous souls with penchants for wandering. Many travel between the cosmopolitan settlements, such as those along the Sword Coast, and wield their magic in service of the common good. Others prioritize the realization of their own strange powers by roaming equally strange lands, from the magic-blasted wastes of the Narak Desert to the god-touched wilds of the old empires. Whenever they go in the realms, the Spellfire sorcerers are often courted by factions with interests in the arcane arts, such as the Harpers and Cult of the Dragon. Makes sense. All right, so level 3, Spellfire Burst. When you spend at least 1 sorcery point as part of the magic action or a bonus action on your turn, you can unleash one of the following magical effects of your choice. You can do so only once per turn. Bolstering Flames. You got to spend a sorcery point, so that's like the cost there. You or one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself gains temporary hit points equal to 1d4 plus your charisma modifier. This is a good one. And let's see here. And it's only one of these, so you get to decide which one you want to do. And you only do this once per turn, so as long as you have sorcery points that you can spend, you can do this. And Radiant Fire. One creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself must succeed on a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC or take 1d4 fire or radiant damage, your choice. Interesting. So it's pretty cool. So that's something that you can kind of help somebody if you use Bolstering Flames, or add more damage to it as you are spending that sorcery point. When you spend at least 1 sorcery point as part of the magic action or a bonus action on your turn. It's interesting. I have to go back and look at the 2024 rules because I didn't think sorcery points were tied necessarily to one of those things. Like, it's something that you could do that obviously if you spend it, it's going towards that. So obviously if you're saying like I'm going to spend a sorcery point to add this to my spell or whatever, then that's when it would come into play. So level 3, Spellfire Spells. When you reach a sorcerer level specified in the Spellfire Spells table, you thereafter always have the listed spells prepared. Yeah, okay. You always have Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt, Lesser Restoration, and Scorching Ray. Those are really good. Those are actually really cool. I like that. Aura Vitality, Dispel Magic. Fire Shield, Wall of Fire, Greater Restoration, Flame Strike. So you have some cleric spells in the mix here. This is the theme I'm seeing here, is that a lot of these subclasses, what they're doing is they're kind of giving you access to things of another class to kind of pull in that flavor. I think as a way to not necessarily discourage you from multi-classing, but so you don't have to multi-class, right? Because it's giving you some of these spells that I'm pretty sure Guiding Bolt is not on Sorcerer's spell list. Cure Wounds, I don't think either, actually. Yeah, so a lot of these are on the Cleric spell list. So I think that's probably what they're trying to do with some of these subclasses is they're trying to give you a little bit of flavor of another class so that if you don't want to multi-class but you want to get something from that other class, you can. Now, people will argue, well, this is why I'm multi-classing is to get these specific things, right? And that might not be giving that to you, but I do think it's interesting and it's a really cool concept to try to give you something to allow you to build up your main class instead of feeling like you have to multi-class if you want to get like some of these other benefits from other classes as well too. So I think it's really cool for them to try to think of a way of being able to give you some access to other classes without having to full on multi-class. Whether people actually feel like they can do that or not, that's a different question. I know for me, sometimes my multi-class, it's not like necessarily just a very specific thing. Sometimes it's a narrative reason. Sometimes it's more of a feature that they have that's not really tied into like spells or some other thing. So, but again, this is really a great idea to try to give people access to things from a different class. Probably, from the feedback that they got of like, I wish my sorcerer could do, some of the cleric spells or something like that. That's probably where they got it from, is my guess. So, but I like that idea of them trying to at least get that option. You can still multi-class. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I don't think they're discouraging from you. I think they're just trying to give you ways that you don't have to multi-class if you don't want to, and kind of give you some, benefits from something from other classes. So, okay. Level 6, Absorb Spells. You always have Counterspell prepared. Additionally, whenever a target fails a saving throw against a counterspell you cast, you regain 1d4 sorcery points. That is fucking awesome, actually. That is awesome. Hey, JT, what's up? I think that alone, I think is really cool. And that's probably worth this subclass just to be able to do that. Because whenever you counterspell, if they fail that saving throw, I know there's been a lot of debate about the fact they changed counterspell to where the person who gets counterspelled no longer loses that spell slot. They still lose that action or bonus action or whatever, right? But they don't lose that spell slot, which I know a lot of people were kind of on the fence with that. As a sorcerer, I feel like this kind of helps, kind of tend the wound a little bit there, because then you get some sorcery points back. So, you spell was tasty. Right? No internet, haven't had since Friday. Like the internet provider, maybe? I mean, you're not saying you don't have power, so that's a different conversation, right? Or that'd be a different reason why you wouldn't have internet. Man, that's a bummer. That means we can't play Fortnite together. Well, I hope you get it back soon. It's almost like a necessity nowadays, right? Anyways, yeah, absorb spells. You always have counterspell prepared, so that's great. So you don't have to, pick that when you get to that level. And if you're successful in counterspelling that, then you get 1d4 sorcery points back. I forget what the saving throw is they have to do with counterspell. Is it still Constitution? I know you have to do a Constitution saving throw when you take damage if you're concentrating on a spell. Is that the same thing counterspell? I can't remember. It's escaping me right now. You know what? We don't guess. We look it up. Let's look it up in the player's handbook here. Spellcasting. That's crafting equipment here. Hold on. Let's look up counterspell. Yeah, you think it's... Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm pretty sure it is. But sometimes I'm like, was that the previous rules or is that the new rules I'm thinking of? Contagion, control weather, counterspell. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. The creature makes a Constitution saving throw. Yep. On a failed save, the spell dissipates with no effect, and the action, bonus action, or reaction used to cast it is wasted. If that spell was cast with a spell slot, the spell is expended. Yeah, so it is a Constitution saving throw. So against your DC, your saving throw DC. So spell level doesn't matter anymore. Oh yeah, that's right. That's the other thing is that because I remember what was in the old rules. It's like if it was higher. If it was higher, it automatically failed. So I think that probably makes sense with that trade-off then, right? With counterspell is that now you don't have to worry about like is the spell like higher or lower or whatever, because I think that might help prevent from metagaming from people and all that. I'm sure that was probably one of the reasons why they were having problems with that. So I think that's probably a good trade-off. I don't know. So. If it's higher, it doesn't say it in the spell. I wonder if they cover that in like the spell casting rules. Yeah, because the spell description doesn't say that. But that doesn't mean that's not it. But you're right, that's how it was with the old one, right? For the 2014 rules. Yeah. The 2014. Yeah. Yep, you're right. Yeah, the 2014. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the new rules as well, too. Yeah, the 2014, yeah, that's exactly right. It's 10 plus whatever the level. Yeah, I got you. Okay. But it automatically failed, like, if it was higher, right? Like, if you were casting it at a lower level than the actual spell itself. Because I remember the spell level mattered in terms of how you're doing that. But maybe it was just for the Constitution save, like what you're saying. Friday, 2 a.m. to 11:30, and at 2 p.m., having someone out tomorrow to fix it. I'm sorry, man. We upcasted a counter spell and it wasn't higher enough, and then you failed the roll. When you upcasted a counter spell and it wasn't. That is true. Yeah, because with the counter spell, you could still pick what level. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. I haven't got to a point where Counterspell had to like impact some of the games I was running. So, yeah, that makes sense. I owned. Excuse me. Sorry. Owned Spellfire. Spellfire burst improves. You add your sorcery level to the temporary hit points gained from bolstering flames, and the 1d6 of radiant fire increases to 3d6. That's pretty good. So the temporary hit points, the 1d4 plus your charisma modifier. Okay, so you're adding it. So at level 14, if you're using bolstering flames, you're going to be adding 14 plus a d4 plus your charisma modifier for temporary hit points. That's pretty good. That is pretty good at level 14. And then the bolstering flames increases to 3d6. Then level 18 Crown of Spellfire. As a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. Once you use this bonus action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. That tends to be the theme of the last feature of subclasses here. Unless you spend 7 sorcery points, no action required to restore your use of it. That is a lot. All right, let's read it. Burning Life Force. Once per turn, When you're hit by attack roll, you can expend a number of hit dice up to a maximum equal of your charisma modifier, minimum 1. Roll the expended dice and reduce the amount of damage from that attack equal to the total roll plus your sorcerer level. Let's see, a bonus again, the following benefits. Okay. So as long as you have hit dice that you could use, you're just going to roll that and you add that to your sorcery level, which at this point would be level 18. That's not bad. And you regain all of your hit points, or all your hit dice. Sorry, I keep saying hit points. You regain all your hit dice after long rest instead of just half like in 2014. So, flight. You gain a fly speed of 60 feet and can hover. So here's the part that kind of gets in the way of things sometimes. And this is just reality of like any class, because there's so many variations that you're not going to avoid every single thing. But there are some species just in 2024 alone that you get flight, right? Draconic flight for Dragonborns, they have that option where they can fly for a minute. However, it's not 60 feet. So this is still an improvement. So I do like that. Because with Draconic Flight, I believe it's just equal to your walking speed. So it would just be 30 feet of fly. So this gives you 60, which is good. And then Spell Avoidance. When you're subjected to a spell or magical effects that allows you to make a saving throw to take only half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw, only half if you fail. You can't use this benefit. Okay, gotcha. So it pretty much gives you evasion. As long as it's a spell related, so. Nice, okay. Yeah, so that's pretty good. Blade Singer. Overall, let me talk about Spellfire Sorcerer. I like this. I think this is a really cool subclass to try out sometime, because this has a pretty cool flavor to it. I feel like this is one that you could have a lot of fun narratives to it. This is not tied to like a specific place like some of the other ones are, right? Some of them are kind of tied to specific places or regions or something. I know this mentions a couple of specific regions, but it's not really. It's more of like, this is what they could be doing type of thing. So I do like this, because I feel like this could be flavored in a lot of different ways and narratively be explained in a lot of different ways as well too. So I really like this. I think this is a really cool one. Level 6 absorb spells, I feel like is a banger. I really like that feature. I think that's really cool. And then Crown of Spellfire is really cool as well too. I really do like that one. So August, how you doing? Evasion only does dex saves. Yes, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it's dex saves for anything, right? So for Sorcerer, this is only a spell or magical effect. So like this wouldn't work for grapple or a trap or something like that, unless it's a magical trap like Glyph of Warding and all that. So that's why I would say it's like Evasion, because there's still some conditions based on that. But it's still good. Like, I mean, if you think about it, like a good portion of the saves that you're making is probably going to be based on spells in that regard. So I've been editing most of the evening. Editing? Like video editing? I know you stream, so I'm wondering if that's what you mean, like by editing. All right, Blade Singer. Wizard subclass. This is not a new one. This is an existing one that they made changes to. I've heard pretty much everybody's kind of split on this. Some people like the changes. Some people are good with the changes. I would say maybe there's some people who like the changes. Some people who are like, the changes make sense. You kind of see it as like a lateral move. So they don't hate it or love it. It's just like they like it and they feel like the changes like made sense. And some people don't like it because of reasons. All right. So use video editors. So it says you go learning on this. Yeah. Honestly, so I'm a video editor in my full-time job now. I'm a video producer. But I started off teaching myself by, YouTube videos and just practicing and stuff like that. So The more you do it, the more you get used to it and figure out like workflows is definitely a big part of learning how to video edit better, because I feel like that's probably like 30% of what improves your editing skills is knowing how to create a workflow that makes it efficient, because there's a lot of different ways to do video editing. Like there's like, 10 ways to do the one same thing, right? And it's finding what makes the most sense in terms of efficiency for workflow. And then you start, experimenting with, oh, maybe I could do this and do these other things. And you kind of get inspiration from other people's videos. Like, oh, that's a really cool thing that they did. I think I might emulate that, right? All right, Bone Chills, as well as my Witcher 1 playthrough. Ooh, Witcher 1. I haven't played it in the Witcher games, but I want to. Okay, wields sword and sorcery in elegant tandem. Blade Singers master a tradition of wizardry that incorporates swordplay and dance. In combat, a Blade Singer uses a series of intricate, elegant maneuvers that fend off harm and allow the Blade Singer to channel magic into devastating attacks and a cunning defense. Many who have observed a Blade Singer at work remember the display as one of the more beautiful experiences in their life, a glorious dance accompanied by a singing blade. Whenever I see that, I always think of the singing sword from Who Framed Roger Rabbit when Eddie Valiant pulled out the cartoon sword and it's Frank Sinatra singing. Witcher 3 as a teenager, so when they released a bundle on Steam. Oh, yeah. Well, especially with Witcher 4 coming out, that'd be really great to play through in preparation for it, right? I kind of want to get... I have Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and I definitely want to play it. I just don't have a computer, I don't have a PC to really play PC games, unfortunately. So, a Boots Blade Singer. Boots Blade Singer would definitely be awesome. I could see Boots doing this. Yeah, Witcher 4 looks really cool. From the trailer, I know it's not a whole lot, but it looks great. I love it when they do cinematic trailers like that. Boots definitely has to be like in a tuxedo, too. I'm right, Sam. He's got to be in a suit, like elegant, maybe like, like a top coat with a cane that serves as, the sword and the spell, the arcane focus, maybe. That'd be fun. Blade singing is strongly associated with the ancient elven societies that first mastered the art and coined the term. Even today, most blade singers still hail from the old elven realm, such as Cormanther, or from non-elven societies that share land and history with elves, such as the Silver Marches. Wherever they hail from, blade singers are known for taking their talents all across the realms in order to help common people and perform heroic deeds. Few communities greet the arrival of a blade singer as anything but a good omen. I love that. When gaming laptop to have everything installed and then pop back and forth. Yeah. The more my tux on Friday. I know. I know. No one told you had to pull for the deck. But I get it, because now I'm sitting at a -2 on all my saving throws. Which, like, the strength and con is fine. Dex is down to 0, but all my mental, all my cognitive saving throws, and I don't want to say cognitive either, all my non-physical saving throws, I guess I'll say it that way. Wisdom, I think, is the worst one, because I think it's sitting at a -3, and then everything else is at a -1 or -2, if I remember correctly. So I pulled 3. One was good because it gave me that expertise, essentially, in persuasion, I think. And I got a house, and we just have to slay the monster for it. And the other one was a blank card, so nothing happened. So I probably should have just picked another card. I hope I got the Fates card to get rid of the curse. So, and pop back and forth. Yeah. Yeah, I tried playing PC games on my computer, and it's not set up for that. Design note, Blade Singer updates. Here are the main updates in the subclass since its appearance in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Blade Song now allows you to use your intelligence modifier for attack and damage rolls while the song is active. The number of uses is now tied to your intelligence modifier, because I think before it was tied to your proficiency bonus. if I remember correctly. I think that's what people said. Training in War and Song now grants you proficiency in a skill chosen from a list of options. Expanded weapon proficiencies have replaced armor training, and you now... Oh, okay, gotcha. Now can use a weapon as a spell casting focus. So, Sam, right there, cane that turns into a sword, and it's your spell casting focus now. But yeah, I think that's where the change here is that expanded weapon proficiencies have replaced armor training, because you used to be able to do light armor, have light armor on... in the Tasha's Cauldron and everything. And this new one, I know they got rid of that one. So, Song of Victory now allows you to make a weapon attack as a bonus action after casting a spell with an action. That's a good one. I think that's a good trade-off. Not a tech person in the slightest, and because of that, I had streamed 4 times yesterday, but managed to fix everything. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just practicing and, seeing what works. Like, obviously, if you're watching my stream, I know why it's acting like this. It's because I think I have like Google Chrome up or something where it's just sucking out all the RAM from this, I believe. Usually if I have too many programs open up and everything, it kind of does this lagging effect a little bit. So I figured might as well just do it. I'm just talking. It's not like this is a game that I'm streaming. So, all right. Okay, level 3, Blade Song. As a bonus action, you invoke an elven magic called the Blade Song, providing you aren't wearing armor or using a shield. I think the shield was the other thing as well, too. I think in Tasha's Cauldron and everything, it allowed you to have light armor proficiency, I think. And I think a shield. I can't remember on top of my head. Again, we don't guess. We look it up. All right, let's see here. Da-da-da. Rogue, Warlock, Sorceress, Warlock, Wizard, okay, yeah. Okay, so this is a level 3. Yeah, that makes sense. You gain proficiency with light armor, and you gain proficiency in one type of one-handed melee weapon of your choice. Okay, so shield was never a proficiency thing you could do, but it's light armor. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that was from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. How well that works with True Strike, or if True Strike gives other classes too much of this. Would that stack with Dex, Intelligence, and Mage Armor, throwing shield too? Shield, like reaction shield spell. That's the part that gets confusing, because I know people were talking about shield and they had to clarify, like, well, what shield did you mean with that? I wonder about haste and how that interacts with some of those abilities. Yeah. Yeah, let's read through the rest of that, and then True Strike, because True Strike changed to where you can touch a weapon and like as a cantrip, essentially, right? So True Strike is a cantrip, so you could do that. The only thing is, it becomes like your magic action at that point, right? And so if you want to do that, you could potentially do that. I don't think it's going to be too much for that. So I'm gonna just have the feeling as soon as I log back on, they'll release patch 8. Well, they just started stress testing it. So I don't know if they would release it that soon, unless you're talking about maybe getting into stress testing. Oh, yeah. Well, not just intelligence either. Yeah, so like I'm actually using it as a cleric, and you can pick the version of goggles. Yeah. But you can pick which spellcasting ability that you want to use with it. So I actually have that as a cleric, and I took Magic Initiate Wizard, and I took 2 Strike, and so it increases, or not increases, but uses my Wisdom spellcasting modifier for it. Yeah, so I mean it's they definitely improved it. And for those who want to do a spellcaster that also attacks with weapons, because I'm doing a cleric war domain, so I get like that bonus action of being able to hit with my weapon. True Strike will not count towards that, but just gives me another chance to do some damage as a bonus action. Yeah. I love True Strike. They definitely fixed True Strike there. Okay, so if you aren't wearing armor or using a shield, this lasts for 1 minute. Ends early if you're incapacitated, if you don armor or shield, or if you use 2 hands to make an attack with a weapon. You can dismiss the Blade Song at any time, no action required. While the Blade Song is active, you gain the following benefits. You can invoke the Blade Song a number of times equals to your intelligence modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So you gain a bonus to your AC equal to your intelligence modifier, and your speed increases by 10 feet. So now, with Blade Song, when you activate it, your AC becomes pretty much whatever your dexterity, it's 10 plus your dexterity modifier. So if you use dexterity as kind of like what you're dumping in there, right? Plus your intelligence modifier. And then if you use, like what you said, Sam, shield, that helps. Now, someone also said you could cast mage armor as well, too, which makes your starting AC at 13, if I remember correctly, okay? So if it's 13 plus whatever your dexterity modifier is, let's say for argument's sake, like it's 2, right? So that makes it, if you dump it in that way, that makes it 15 plus your intelligence modifier. So that could be 18 if your modifier is like at least a 3. And then if you use the shield reaction, then that gives it like a 23 at level 3. That's insane. You're also using a lot of your spell slots to like do that essentially. So I feel like it's a really cool way to do it, but it's like you go big like really quickly, and you have to be mindful of like what's happening in the story, because you probably don't want to blow through those like pretty quickly either. So higher levels. What's at higher levels? Mage armor's all day, right? But the shield is just 1 turn, just more spell slots. Yeah. No, so once you get to higher levels, like, that's the thing. Once you get to higher levels, you're expected to kind of be a little bit tougher at that point, right? So, yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I want to see... And mage armor... Yeah, because mage armor is all day. Well, it's 8 hours, technically. But it could be all day, essentially, right? With like depending on how you're playing that game. And it doesn't even have to be you. You could do it to somebody else. So if you have like a whole band of like blade singing wizards, right? Intelligence, dex, con build. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you're doing intelligence, then dex, then con, which at that point, like, you're probably not putting a whole lot of con in there. But still enough, right? Yeah, AC is 13 plus his dexterity modifier. And you can't put on any armor, which at that point you're not, right? And I think that might be one reason why they changed it. Although if you're wearing armor, like, yeah. Like, you still use mage armor, even if you're wearing armor, right? No, it says who isn't wearing armor. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right, yeah. So I wonder if people were like, oh, I want to do mage armor because that just makes it better that way, I guess. What was the other thing? Oh, shield is the other thing I wanted to see here real quick. I don't think shield changed, but I just want to see what they've said. By attack roll, or targeted by a magic missile spell. Until starting the next turn, you have a +5 bonus to your AC, including against a triggering attack, and you take no damage from magic missile. Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like, average combat is like 3 rounds, they say. So hopefully at higher levels, you're going through more rounds. But again, you get more spell slots higher. So, yeah. Excuse me, at a higher rate. Blade work. Whenever you attack with a weapon with which you have proficiency, you can use your intelligence modifier for the attack and damage rolls instead of using strength or dexterity. And focus. Whenever you make a Constitution saving throw to maintain concentration, you can add your intelligence modifier to the total. So yeah, that's actually pretty strong at level 3. But here's what I'm not seeing here, though, is blade work. Whenever you attack with a weapon with which you have proficiency. So somehow you have to have proficiency in whatever weapon you're using, right? So I think they got rid of armor weapon training for species. That was a thing in 2014. And I think they got rid of it for 2024. Right? So wizards now, weapon proficiency is simple weapons, right? So still you could do a quarterstaff if you wanted to. I can't remember with I think longsword is martial still. Let me see here. A species. Let me get into weapons. Yeah, here we go. All right, so simple melee weapons. Dagger. Longsword is martial. Short sword is martial as well, too. Okay, yeah, so dagger, hand axe, club, javelin, mace, light hammer, spear. So any of those a wizard is proficient in. But armor training, they're not proficient in any of those things. And again, I'm pretty sure with species, they got rid of armor and weapon training that was connected to species and just put it all in class and feats. Yeah. Yep, that's right. So look at the next feature. What, a focus? With all melee martial weapons. Oh, okay, gotcha. That don't have the two-handed or heavy weapon property. You can use a melee weapon with you have proficiency as a spell casting focus. Okay, gotcha. Is that why they said... Okay, so that's probably what that was all about then right there. Okay. All right, gotcha. So that does give you that. Magically, right? Excuse me. You also get proficiency in one of the following skills of your choice. Yep. Level 6 extra attack. You attack twice instead of once whenever you make the attack action on your turn. Moreover, you can cast one of your wizard cantrips that has a casting time of an action in place of one of those attacks. That's fine. I don't know. Like, I get why people like Blade Singers as a subclass. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's like there's already subclasses that does like a mix of sword and sorcery, right? Paladin. I know it's not high in spells, but it has that feature of it. Eldritch Knight does. I think I forget which rogue subclass, but rogue subclass has that. I know it's not the same thing there, but I don't know. You can attack twice instead of once. I mean, I guess that's a good option if you really want to flavor it that way. Like, I'm not going to yuck on anyone's yum or anything like that. I think, if you enjoy it and like to play it, totally, go for it. It just doesn't entice me specifically, personally. So, yeah. Okay, so Training War and Song, so that's how you get proficiency with all melee martial weapons that don't have the two-handed or heavy property. All right, level 10, Song of Defense. Arcane Trickster, yeah. Yeah. Like, I get that, but, like, at the same time, it's like, but if you're going to be doling out, like, 9th level spells and stuff like that, like, the higher you get, I feel like then these melee attacks and all that, like, doesn't really, like, I guess it's good as an option when you run out of spell slots and everything, right? But, I don't know, like I get it, because you can do 9th level spells, and you can't do that with Paladin or Eldritch Knight or anything like that, but as a spellcaster, if you get 9th level spells, like all those high level spells, like you're doing those, right? So, but I get it. Again, people like that, and that's totally fine. If you want to do that, cool, right? I know some people are like, oh yeah, AC is going to be like 25 now. I'm like, haha. Start rolling saving throws for those kinds of spells or traps or things like that, right? Excuse me. Because focus only applies to maintaining concentration, right? So you have to, I don't know if there's even like a feat that kind of helps with, that you can take on that will help with area of effects in that way. I think that has to be like a class embedded feature. So, all right, Song of Defense. When you take damage while your Blade Song is active, you can take a reaction to spend one spell slot and reduce the damage taken by amount equal to 5 times the spell slot's level. See, now this is interesting because now at level 10, you have to start thinking about, and this is the area effect that can come into play here. You have to start thinking about, do you want to take that so you can reduce the damage based on that? And give up the AC, because you can only do one action per round, right? Or per turn, right? So at that point, you're trading off something. So like the thing that you're, not having to have, excuse me, you're trading off at that point. So it kind of gives you that option, but it's definitely one of those things where if you take that one option, then you're kind of leaving yourself vulnerable for the other option. But your AC is still pretty high if you're doing the mage armor, and now with all the feats, like depending on how you do your ability score increases, you can go up potentially anywhere from 1 to 3, maybe even 4. Plus 4 for your modifier, like adding a plus 4 from +1 to +4. If you take those feats, that allows you to increase a skill, and you do that all in intelligence. So, yeah, so it's still pretty good. All right, level 14, Song of Victory. After you cast a spell that has a casting time of an action, you can make one attack with the weapon as a bonus action. Yeah. That's pretty cool. It says one attack with a weapon. So here's what's happening here, right? Because they're very strategic about what they said. Is that you can gain proficiency with all melee martial weapons that don't have the two-handed or heavy property. So with Song of Victory, at this point, if you think about this, you're kind of making some compromises in how you're building your character. Like, you really probably have to, like, dump a bunch of stats, right? Like strength and wisdom and charisma to try to bolster up the dexterity, the intelligence, and the constitution, right? And wizards still, like, their hit die for hit points and stuff like that is still not up there. Like, you could definitely add tough feat, but it's still going to be on the lower end of how many hit points you have. So, like, you can make a weapon attack as a bonus action. Now, it doesn't say melee weapon attack. So you can have something that is a one-handed, a one-handed weapon that's range, which would be the hand crossbow, not the light crossbow, because light crossbow is still two-handed. Equipment. Okay. All right, so martial range weapons. You could do a blowgun. Hand crossbow, it says it's light and loading. Oh, wait, hold on. Where's the light crossbow? Yeah, light crossbow is two-handed still. Short bow is two-handed. Musket is two-handed. Pistol is one-handed. So if you want to do like that crazy, you know, I'm a wizard with a gun. Heavy crossbow is two-handed, obviously. Yeah, so you could do a hand crossbow. And then if you do, again, like you'll have to pick feats. Like if you want to be able to shoot that like in close range and everything like that, you have to take that 1 feat for sharpshooter that allows you to do that, right? So yeah, so like this is pretty strong, but I feel like you also have to kind of make compromises along the way. So a Kobold Black Powder Sorcerer. Why not? I don't know why that's such a hilarious image, but wizard with a gun, right? Yeah, because it's like, I can do all this stuff. I still have a gun. I can cast spells that can do much worse than a bullet or a sword, but I still have one. But I mean, at level 14 with Song of Victory, like, you know, you get a weapon attack as a bonus action when you cast a spell of an action. So it's a pretty cool bonus. I agree with that. I think that's something that you can definitely do. And I think you can really focus on range and kind of keep yourself as like as out of the mix of things. But I've heard people talk about like they like to have a Blade Singer wizard that's like doing melee attacks as well too, which again, you know, however you want to build that, power to you. I think it's just like, I feel like I don't want to say you, because again, if people want to build it, totally fine. You know, like I can see why this is really, why this is really enticing for people, right? With extra attack, like, yeah, you get to attack twice with the attack action, but you're giving up, doing it, it's like casting a spell during that turn just to do the weapon attacks. Like for me, it just doesn't entice me because at that point I feel like you're giving up a lot just to kind of straddle both lines here. But again, if that's what you want to do, go for it. You know, it sounds like a lot of people like Blade Singer. You know, I might just be in the minority here. I think mostly melee with crazy AC. Yeah. Where's the fun? I mean, you can also still do range with like when people try to attack you with range weapons too. Like you still have high AC and everything. I mean, yeah, you could be in there, but again, I think if a DM is smart and they see a Blade Singer in there, they're putting in creatures that can really do some things, right? For example, if they have one creature that tries to grapple you, right? Then that's going to impact you. And then the other creatures can start hitting you. Now, your AC is still high, yes, but I think at that point they get advantage on attacks, right? So monsters know what they're doing. Go Evoker. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just if somebody wants to do it that way, like, yeah, high AC, like I totally get that as well too. But, you know, you get somebody that can figure out how to hit you with that high AC, like even with that shield spell and everything, right? Move equals 0. I thought there was something with advantage attacks too, though. Is that not the case? grappling, grappled. No. It says right here, grappled condition. While you're grappled, you experience the following. Speed is 0. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against any other target other than the grappler. Oh, okay, so it's just disadvantage on any other thing. Okay. So that must have been a change from 2014, maybe? Or maybe I'm thinking of something else. Immovable. The grappler can drag you, carry you, but every movement costs blah, blah, blah. Escaping grapple. Okay. Or maybe I'm just catching that. Maybe I'm just confusing grapple with, like, prone with that or something like that. I can't remember. Oh, is it restrained? Is that what it is? Is that what I get confused at? Grapple, the speed is 0, restrained. Maybe that's what it was in 2014? Was that restrained? Like you had the restrained condition or something like that? Yeah. See, that's what I find really interesting is what essentially becomes the difference between grappled and restrained. Like I get grappled is like probably not as secure as like something else that can restrain you. But I would make the argument that, like, you're still restrained though. Yeah, you're right. It is restrained that I'm thinking of, where the attacks attack rolls against you have advantage, and your attack rolls have disadvantage, and then saving throws you have a disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. Yep, you're right. So that's what I was getting the two confused on. Yeah. But yeah, see, like that's the thing. Is just like at that point, like why even have a separate grappling thing? Like just make it restrained, right? I feel like that's something that they could just eliminate and just be like, well, if you're grappled, you have if someone grapples you, then you have the restraint condition until you get out of it. So, yeah, Evoker. I can't remember what Evoker does because you said like if you want to be a range wizard, be Evoker, but again, I mean the way they said it, like they didn't say melee, right? So you could still do that sort of Evoker. Yeah, you could still do that sort of blade singer if you want to do like a hand crossbow or a pistol. Potent cantrip, sculpt spells, and cast evoker. I mean, Evoker doesn't scream out like range gets bumped up from just looking at this. When you cast a cantrip at a creature and you miss with the attack roll or the target succeeds on a saving throw against a cantrip, the target takes half the cantrip's damage but suffers no additional. See, that's pretty cool. I like that. When you cast an evocation spell, automatically succeed on their saving throws against the spell and they take no damage. They're never take half damage. Yeah. So that's pretty much just like meta magic sculpt that you get as a wizard, which is cool. I like that. You can add your intelligence modifier to 1 damage roll of that spell. And then you increase the power of your spells, blah, blah, blah. Spells deals damage. You can deal maximum damage with that spell on your turn you cast it. That's, wow, yeah. So when you cast it, it's like maximum damage here. See, you cast a wizard spell. The first time you do so, okay, here we go. The first time you do so, you suffer no adverse effect. If you use this feature again before you finish a long rest, you take 2d12 necrotic damage for each level spell immediately after you cast. Oh, wow. So if you cast like a level 5 spell using that the second time, you're taking 10d12 necrotic damage. And it ignores resistance and immunity. So there's like no way for you to get around that. Unless somebody has a way to like reduce that damage. Because it just says it ignores resistance and immunity. Interesting. Cool. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. It's probably restraint I was thinking of. But again, like, I wonder why grapple and restraint are essentially different, like, functionally, right? Like, come on, just, if they get grappled, they have the restraint condition. Like, that's not hard. Like, it doesn't have to be grappled, right? So, anyways, okay. So, yeah, and looking at all these, going back up, College of the Moon Bard, wasn't that impressed. Like, it's fine. I think if people want to do that, I think it's pretty cool. But it's not something that screams at me like I want to do this subclass for me personally. Knowledge Domain Cleric, I think, what was it that they had that was like, oh, that is really cool. This one was really cool, the Mind Magic. I think it's Unfettered Mind, right? Oh, maybe not. I mean, it's a cool way to like communicate with them. As a magic item, you can expend use of your channel divinity to manifest your magical knowledge. Choose one spell from the knowledge domain spells that you have prepared. This is all these up here. As part of that action, you cast that spell without expending a spell slot or needing material components. Okay, maybe knowledge domain was not the one I was thinking of that I thought was pretty cool. Now, this part is like level 17 because you can, as a bonus action, you can have advantage on D20 tests. Once you use this feature, you can't do this again until you finish a long rest. You can also restore your use of this feature by expending a level 6. Yeah. Yeah, I thought at the time I liked it, but now I'm looking through this. I'm like, maybe I'm not that impressed. So it's good. I'm not saying it's not good. But again, I don't think there's anything that really yells out at me. That's like, oh, this is so great. Purple Dragon Knight Fighter. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about this. I personally like it. I think it's pretty cool. I know people who've done Purple Dragon Knight before have said like they don't like the changes with this, but I still like it. I think it's pretty cool, especially if you want to be somebody that has their own dragon, essentially. I think this is a good way of having it without the DM feeling like they have to give them an actual dragon that's from the monster manual, right? Restraint is very good. Yeah, restraint is good. Oath of the Noble Paladin. This one, I think, flavor-wise is pretty cool. It kind of gives you some options for your elemental smite. Again, I don't think one that was just like, oh, I gotta play this one. But if I was going to play a paladin, this would definitely be one I would consider because I think it would be pretty cool for that. Winter Walker Ranger. This is the one that I'm like, I definitely want to do this one, right? Because you have resistance to cold damage. When you hit a creature, you can deal extra 1d4 damage. When you cast Hunter's Mark, you get temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your ranger level. So I do like that. Fortifying Soul. Chosen creature regains hit points. Chilling Retribution was really good. Because that's a reaction to force a creature to make a wisdom saving throw. They get frightened. And then, yeah, I really like this one. Scion of the Three Rogue was really cool, too. I really like that one as well. So, yeah, I think for me, Walker, Winter Walker, Texas Ranger, and Rogue Scion of the Three are the two that I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And Spellfire Sorcery, that one, I'm like, that's really cool. I would definitely play that one as well, too. So those are probably my top 3 favorite. Blade Singer Wizard, again, I know why people like that. Like, don't get me wrong. Pretty cool with that. I gotta imagine like it's not busted, because if it was busted, I think they probably maybe would have done something else with this, but I feel like you're probably giving up something for this, right? But I don't know. Again, just doesn't entice me. Like, I get why people want to do it. They want to do that, sword sorcery thing. Just doesn't entice me personally, so. Dragon Knight just makes me wonder what's up with the Drake Warden Ranger. Yeah, where's Drake Warden from again? Because I know everybody was talking about that. Everybody keeps mentioning that. Is it Tasha's that's in? Let's see, Bard. Paladin. Fey Wanderer. Swarm Keeper. Beastmaster Companions. Okay, so it wasn't that one. Was it Xanathars I was in? Dungeon Master Tools. Ranger. No, it wasn't that one. Drake Warden. Where else would it be? Would it be Sword Coast? $133. It doesn't say subclasses for Rangers, but let's take a look at this one. Yeah, that doesn't have it. Huh, I wonder where... Drake Warden. Let me look it up on my phone. Maybe I have access to it through D&D Beyond. Classes. Ranger. Subclasses. Drake Warden. Oh, it's in Fizbands. Yeah, I got that book. Okay, the bond you share with the Drake creates... a connection to dragonkind, granting you understanding and empowering your presence. You gain the following benefits: thaumaturgy. You learn to speak, read, and write Draconic. As an action, you can magically summon the Drake that is bound to you. It appears in unoccupied space within you of 30 feet. So let's follow along here and see. All right, you can cast Comprehend Languages. You learn one language of your choice. You're bonded with the dragon. And then this is what you can do in combat. Friendly to your allies. And then we get to level 7 there, right? Okay. The Drake is friendly to your companions and obeys your commands. Word for word there. See its game statistics in the accompanying Drake companion stat block, which uses your proficiency bonus in a lot of places. You can determine the cosmetic characteristics of the Drake, such as its color, blah, blah, blah. In combat, the Drake shares your initiative count, but it takes its turn immediately after yours. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it can take during its turn is the dodge action, unless you take a bonus action for it to command to take another action. Same thing here. Yep. And then this one is to take another action. Yeah. And it's stat block. Anything the Drake was wearing or carrying is left behind when the Drake vanishes. Once you summon the Drake, you can't do so until you finish the long rest, unless you expend a spell slot first level higher to summon it. Armor class is 14 plus proficiency bonus. Sorry. So this one is AC is 13 plus your intelligence modifier. Okay. Hit points 5 plus 5 times your ranger level. Okay, so already like this is a little bit lower. Purple Dragon is a little bit lower. Speed is 40 feet. But it doesn't have a fly. It doesn't have a fly speed though. For the Drake. It has dark vision. Yeah, that's about the same. Perception is 12. Passive perception is 12. Challenge. Proficiency bonus equals your your bonus. Draconic Essence. When you summon the Drake, you choose a damage type. The chosen type determines the Drake's damage immunity and the damage of its infused strikes trait. Okay, so that is the difference there. Infused strikes. When another creature within 30 feet of the Drake can see its... And this is a reaction, sorry. Let me read the action here. It's a melee weapon attack, is what it says. And then infused strike is a reaction. When another creature within 30 feet of the Drake can see it hits a target with a weapon attack, the Drake infuses a strike with its essence, causing the target to take an extra 1d6 damage of the type determined by its draconic essence. When another creature within 30 feet of the Drake that it can see hits a target with a weapon attack, the Drake infuses a strike. Okay. So you can use its reaction to add on to that. That's pretty cool. Because the Purple Dragon Companion doesn't have a reaction here. Bond of Fang and Scale. The bond you share with the Drake intensifies, protecting you and stoking the Drake's fury. When you summon your Drake, it grows wings on its back and gains flying speed equals to its walking speed. And its walking speed is 40 feet. So then it becomes a little bit powerful. In addition, while your Drake is summoned, you and the Drake gain the following benefits. Drake Mount. The Drake grows to medium size. Reflecting your special bond, you can use the Drake as a mount if your size is medium or smaller. While you are riding your Drake, it can't use the flying speed of this feature. So that is a difference there. The Magic Fang, the Drake's bite attack deals an extra 1d6. Whereas this one has like a breath weapon. And then resistance, you gain the resistance damage type chosen for the Drake's Draconic Essence as well. So as a ranger, you get that level 7, whereas for this one, like you get it at level 18, because I don't think you get the resistance earlier than that, and it specifically says Force and Psychic. All right, so level 11 is Drake's Breath, Rallying Surge. Okay. As an action, you can exhale a 30-foot cone of damaging breath or cause your Drake to exhale it. So you can just start... You, as a ranger, can start just exhaling a 30-foot cone of damaging breath. It doesn't have to be your Drake. Choose acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison damage. Your choice doesn't have to match the Drake's Draconic Essence. Each creature in the cone must make a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC, taking 8d6 on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. Okay, the breath weapon, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest unless you expend a spell slot a third of higher to use it. So this one you get to use twice a day, but it's not dealing damage, it's just pulling creatures. It's either pulling or pushing creatures. Now, someone said, like, you can excuse me, you can use it to like pull them up in the air and then let them fall and drop. So that's always an option. But yeah, so that is different though, because Rallying Surge allows you. If your purple dragon is one of these allies using advance, the dragon can make one rend attack. The ally, let's see here. Sorry, when you use your action surge, okay, you use your action surge, and then your allies can get that sort of thing. And then retreat, the ally moves up to half its speed without provoking opportunity attack. Okay, so that's a little bit different there. All right, then Perfect Bond, Amethyst Pinnacle. Okay. Your bond to your Drake reaches the pinnacle of its power. When your Drake is summoned, you and the Drake gain the following benefits. Empowered Bite. The Drake's bite attack deals an extra d6 of the type chosen for the Draconic Essence. Large Drake. It goes to large size when you ride the Drake and is no longer prohibited from using the flying speed of Bond and Fang and Scale. Okay, so that part is the same with the superior mount there. And then Reflexive Resistance. When either you or the Drake takes damage while you're within 30 feet of each other, you can use a reaction to give yourself or Drake resistance to that instance of damage. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you expend all resources, all sources, expended uses when you finish a long rest. Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of similarities between these two. I think there's also enough differences. I know a lot of people have said, like, well, what's going to happen to Drake Warden? Well, like, it's a Ranger subclass. And, yeah, there's a lot of similarities, but I think there's also some differences as well, too. Probably more similarities than differences, for sure. But, like, I guess I don't know what that means when it says, like, what's going to happen to Drake Warden Ranger. Like, it's still an option, right? Like, there's still going to be reasons why you might want to use a Ranger over a fighter, excuse me, especially with some of the things that Rangers can do that fighter can't do, and vice versa, right? Yeah, so I don't think this like negates it necessarily. There's a lot of overlap. I'm not going to deny that, and I don't even know what the previous Purple Dragon Knight looked like either. So I wonder how much of a change that happened there as well too. So I'm sure if I pull it up and look at it, like people have said, like lore wise has definitely changed, because I think it was something where someone had said like they're not sure why all of a sudden it's like amethyst dragons. I think there was something else, like who knows. So, but again, just because it's saying these things doesn't mean you can't work with your DM and be like, let's change this, you know, to flavor it a little bit more with what you want to do. So, I mean, that is the thing. Like, even though this is going to be tied to Forgotten Realms, like, you can technically play these in other settings and you just reflavor it, basically, you know? So, all right. Yeah. So, I think my favorite ones are the Spellfire Sorcerer. Spellfire Sorcerer, Scion of the Three Rogue, and the Winter Walker Texas Ranger subclass. I like those. I think those are probably my favorite ones of these. Again, I know why people like Blade Singer. Just doesn't entice me at all. The one I think is most is College of the Moon for the Bard. I just don't think there's a whole lot going on for it that makes it on par with something that I might want to consider playing as a Bard over the other subclasses that they have as well too. Like, again, if you read through this, it clearly has some Druid influence. I mean, they even say it here as well too, is that, you know, the traces origins to the ancient Druidic circles of the Moonshade Isle, so it has that flavor to it. But again, there's just nothing in there that makes me say like this is one that I'm going to really consider for some future character. So, not that I play bards regularly at all, but yeah. So, all right. Well, that is it. We went through all of them. Yeah. And then what I think I might do, because my friend and I are going to be doing a podcast about Baldur's Gate 3, Forgotten Realms, and D&D. And one of the things that we talked about is when they released this is that they, she and I had talked about, we probably want to talk about these subclasses that they released in Unearthed Arcana since it's Forgotten Realms based. So we'll probably do that really early on since it just got released. But that will, I don't know if we're going to be live streaming that podcast yet or not, but if we do, like, I'll try to let people know about that. And we'll take questions from people in the chat as well too. I'll keep an eye out on it, and if people have questions or they want to comment or something like that, we might put that in there. But the other thing about that is we're going to be doing that like every other week. So I'm thinking that the weeks in between, I might just get on and just talk like D&D stuff, like maybe look at something specific. Like I was thinking about maybe going through species, tonight, but I think with given the time and everything like that, I'll probably just do that next time I'm on here. Kind of take a look at the species and talk about which ones I like about them and everything. But yeah, other things like that. So cool. Yeah, but I like doing this stuff because there are things, especially with learning 2014 rules and then now going to 2024, like I know it's a challenge for me to remember what were some of the changes that has happened, which forces me to like look them up. So thank you, Sam, for pointing out things like that. But I like doing these things because sometimes I don't get the opportunity to look through things and think through of like situations where that could occur, right? So the other night, Sam and I were talking about the wording for rogues, how apparently on your turn and once per turn and once per round or whatever are like very, very different things in terms of how it can be interpreted and how it plays into all that stuff. So, so we had a whole conversation about it. I looked into it. It was really interesting because I posted in one area and I was like, hey, I need some rules lawyers to help me out with that. And somebody's like, that's not really a rules lawyer thing. Everybody understands that, which I responded with, obviously not everybody because I'm new to this and that's never came up and I didn't understand it that way. So, there's jerks out there. Not saying that person was intending to be a jerk because it's hard to understand what people are trying to convey when it's like text-based over Discord and all that. But I try to be careful with like how I say and try to not assume like just because it's something that I know well, like, and it's not just D&D, but it's like anything in general. Just because it's something that I've known for a long time, I know a lot of people that know it. I try to not make the assumption that it's a well-known thing. So like, that's not really a rules lawyer thing. And then I posted it I made a video about it on, YouTube and TikTok and all that. And then I had people saying like, you shouldn't be a rules lawyer. There's no winning. Just like D&D, there's no winning. So, a stream on how kobolds are the best. We could have a stream about kobolds. How about we have a stream about draconic species? So that'd be kobolds, which you love, dragonborns, which I love. Isn't there one? Oh, I'm thinking of half dragons. Half dragons is not a playable species, but I think that's that's a draconic lineage there. Obviously, it's a half dragon. So I thought there may have been one other playable race that was tied to dragon ancestry, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just thinking of half dragons. So, but yeah, we could definitely talk about draconic lineage and talk about how cool those things are. I'm curious to see if kobolds make it into a source book this year, since they weren't included in the player's handbook. Dragonborn's got a huge improvement that I absolutely love. They got dark vision now. They got draconic flight. They allow you to pick if you want to do a 15-foot cone or a 30-foot straight line for your breath weapon every time you use that. I'm kind of curious because I always go back and forth on, do I like that better? Or do I like, I think it was Fizban's Treasury Dragons where they introduce, gym Dragonborns, and each one has a different ability. So that's one of the things that, excuse me, that's one of the things that I keep going back and forth on and trying to think about if I like the new Dragonborn species better than what they've introduced in Fizban's, because I do like how they give you like a special ability depending on your ancestry there. They don't have like, subspecies or, other species that you can pick based on your, main one, like how they do with elves and all that, right? Played Dragonborn before I played a Kobold, so experience backs Kobolds being the best. Your experience? I mean, the Draconic Cry is really cool. I really like that. That's a really neat ability that they have. I will say, I think Dragon, the breath weapon is really cool early on. But it's hard to really scale up the DC class when you get into higher levels too. That's one thing I wish they would do is, and I forget how. Let me look it up here. I forget how they determined the DC class, but I feel like it's not that easy to increase it. So like once you get to higher levels where they're probably, going to succeed on a dexterity saving throw, that you're probably not going to use it as much. Because I felt like I never used it as much when I got to like level 8, I think. But I think it's just, if I remember correctly, it's like it's 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus, I think maybe your dexterity mod. No, it's Constitution. That's right. Okay. So it's DC 8 plus your Constitution modifier and proficiency bonus. So it does increase with proficiency bonus and if you increase your Constitution modifier. So it just doesn't scale up nearly as much. So you would just have to be like focusing on that sort of thing, right? Which, if you play it right, like if you play like a Barbarian or a Sorcerer where you try to amp up your Constitution a little bit, or even Wizard, right? That could help increase it for sure. But if you never increase your Constitution score, then it just only scales up with your proficiency bonus. So, all flavor based. What was flavor based? I don't know. I said a lot of stuff. I don't remember what I said, man. All flavor based. But yeah, so that's probably what I'm going to start doing is just kind of looking through these things and thinking through some of these things and start. I think this might be something that I'll allow my players to play with. The only problem is, since it's Unearthed Arcana, I don't think it's something that you can add in D&D Beyond. I don't think. Can you? Because you can download the PDF, but I don't know if that's something like if they're using D&D Beyond for their character sheet, if they can add it yet. Because Ranger here, yeah, unless I need to like go into sources and download something here, but if that's what you want to believe, go ahead, man. Yeah, I don't think there's a way to use Unearthed Arcana and D&D Beyond, right? Because then, or maybe there is. I just never I never bothered with Unearthed Arcana. So now that this is like an option, I'm just wondering if my players want to do that. But it's like, how do they then use it in D&D Beyond? So, yeah, I don't want to make a custom subclass. And then I think weird things happen when they officially release it. Which, I mean, once they officially release it, then it doesn't matter. But, like, I don't want to go through the hassle of, making a subclass, because I've tried to make some stuff before on D&D Beyond, and it gets there are some things that aren't clearly spelled out well that I think gets to be it's just a time suck. I remember one time I was creating a new was it a subclass I was creating? Yeah, because what I was trying to do is I was trying to combine the new Zealot and Ancestral Guardians into like a new subclass essentially. I spent like 2 hours on that, and it only had like 4 levels of things, right? I spent 2 hours on that, and even then, like, it still didn't work the way I was trying to make it work because I don't know like what I messed up or what I was asking for necessarily. So yeah, it is a pain. So I mean, I think magic. I'm like, if it's something like magic items or other things like backgrounds, backgrounds is a really easy thing as long as you're not trying to get anything crazy with it, right? But with 2024, they're just like, here are the things that you pick for backgrounds. It's like, you just stick with that sort of thing. So as long as you don't get super crazy with it, because I did make a custom background for a character that I'm playing where it was just like a entertainment fighter. And all I did was I took the entertainer background and changed the equipment to just a standard 50 gold pieces because I wanted it to be kind of, give people a chance to do whatever they want to do with it instead of being committed to like a set of equipment, which I'm sure I could have probably done something like that, but it's like at 50 gold pieces, just go buy whatever you think makes the most sense. And then I changed the proficiencies from musical to gaming. I wanted to do something else, but like that was the only thing that made the most sense because nothing else really seemed to like fit very well with the entertainment fighter. And then I changed the feat from musician to I had like 3 feats that I said probably makes the most sense, and I ended up just putting tough. I think you could put in athlete in there, or the other one was. I think technically I put Tavern Brawler because Tavern Brawler could be a fun one to do if you're wanting to do like more of like a WWE type of entertainment fighter sort of thing. But I can't remember. I had a whole list of like feats that I thought would make sense for an entertainment fighter, but it was easy to do. That only took me like 20 minutes, I think, to create that, and it worked the way I wanted it to work. I think the ability scores were still a little bit funky, but in D&D Beyond, you can go in and change it manually without a problem, so it wasn't a big deal to do it that way. So, yeah. So, anyways, thank you everybody for joining and checking this out. Yeah, the subclasses that they put in Unearthed Arcana for Forgotten Realms, some of them are fine. Some of them I think people really like Bladesinger. I'm not a fan of it, but that's just more my own personal preference. I can see why people like it. There's some I was less than impressed with, like College of the Moon for the Bard. And there's some I really like the Rogue Scion of the 3, the Sorcerer Spellfire. That's really cool. And Winter Walker Texas Ranger. So, yeah. So thanks everybody. I think I'm just going to go ahead and end this for tonight. And yeah, we'll see what happens later. So thanks.